All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Today we have, so this panel coming up is with first-gen students, either those who've recently been graduated or are upperclassmen here at this college right now. I'm Angela Wu. I am assistant director at the Davis Center at Williams College, and you can think of us sort of as the multicultural center. You probably saw my director earlier, Shauna Patterson, who's the director at the Davis Center. So I'm going to give each of them a chance to sort of introduce themselves and to tell you a little bit about their first-gen experience here at Williams College. I'm going to ask them a few questions, and then we're just going to turn it over to questions from all of you to ask them as the stand-in for your child in terms of the questions that you really want to ask. So I'll go ahead and ask each of you to please introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your Williams experience.
Hello. I don't know how far in I should lean. My name is Eddie Chabanu. I am the oldest one here on the panel. I graduated from Williams in 2015, so a few years ago. And now I work in the admission office. I had the privilege of being a part of an amazing team that admitted all of your brilliant children. And so thank you, I should mention, for all the support that you guys have given your children. It really is such an honor reading phenomenal applications from all around the world and being able to select an incredible class each year. So that really is a testament to the parents and all the support that you guys have given your students. We're excited to have them here, to welcome them here at Williams, to have them moving in. It's exciting. Hopefully not too emotional, but I'm sure it is. Just a very brief intro. My parents didn't attend college, so I didn't really know what to expect going in here. My family immigrated from Romania when I was young, and we moved to Chicago. I'm originally from the Chicagoland area. Is anyone here from the Midwest? Yes, really? Awesome. And so came out here to Williams for college. 1,000 miles away, didn't really know what I would do. I remember my first day very vividly. It was a time when my parents, I said goodbye to them at the airport. I flew here for first-gen orientation by myself with 2 suitcases and a duffel bag, feeling like I had packed my whole life away, and sort of managed to stumble through to my dorm with the help of my junior advisors. If you haven't already met your junior advisors, say hello to them. They're wonderful students that are going to be there for your children throughout the course of the year. And so came into Williams again, wide-eyed and mystified, not sure exactly what I was going to expect, but being excited about the opportunity to learn with an amazing set of classmates, have new experiences, meet students from all around, very different from my own background. And so I just wanted to share a little bit of that. I'm happy to really answer any questions that come up after. I'll certainly be here even at the conclusion of the panel. So feel free to come up to any one of us, I think. But again, feel free. I might have a little bit more experience than some of the other folks here, but I'm just aging myself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Hernandez. I am from Miami. Well, actually, Hialeah, which is a little city in Miami. But I say Miami because everyone likes Miami. My parents came from Cuba. I was born here. And I guess I'm also a class of 2018, or 17.5, because I took a semester off, so I'll be graduating in December. So I guess I can also say about my first experience at Williams. I've always told my parents that I would be leaving Florida ever since I went to the 9th grade. They started believing me like 12th grade, so that's good after 3-4 years of telling them. But it was scary coming here, especially since I have never really left Florida. And then when I was gonna buy my ticket to come up here, my dad and my mom saw how nervous I was, so we decided to drive 25 hours to come up here, just to actually have a little more time together. That day was nerve-wracking, One, my dad actually drove like 20-something hours in a row, so that was why I was nervous. But second, because I had to say goodbye to them. And one, I was nervous because I've never been in the cold, and apparently winters here are really bad. Actually, not apparently, winters here are very bad. So if you guys haven't bought snow gear, please tell your kids to buy snow gear. But because I didn't know what to expect here, I was the first one in my family to graduate high school, and the first one to go to college. So that was a good step because my parents always told me that I would be going to college, and I met their expectations. But nerve-wracking because I knew how tough it would be up here, and calling my parents and kind of venting to them, they wouldn't really understand that yet. Now they do. Now they just let me vent and tell me it's okay, but the first year was kind of confusing for them. So it was hard the first year, but I'm still here and I like it here, so your kids will definitely get used to it. They love it. Like Eddie said, if you haven't met your JAs, I was a JA last year, and seeing the parents was amazing. Seeing the kids was amazing. So, I mean, I still talk to all of my Frosh, and they will always be Frosh in my mind and my heart. So, even when they graduate, I'll still call them freshmen. So please say hi to them. I'm going to pass it on to Alejandra, but Revelia. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for letting your kids come here. They're going to love it. And if they call you late at night to vent, don't worry too much. Okay?
Hello, everyone. My name is Alejandra Moran. I just recently graduated from Williams in June, so I just started working in the admissions office. So Eddie is my colleague here. Unfortunately, I didn't get to read all of your kids' applications, but I definitely look forward to creating future communities here at Williams in the upcoming years. What can I say about myself? So I grew up and was raised in Chihuahua, Mexico, and I moved to the U.S. when I was 11 with my family. Si alguien tiene alguna pregunta después de esto y prefiere hablar en español, pueden venir a preguntarme personalmente. But if my family and I immigrated here, and my mom was always pushing us, my sister and me, to go to college. My sister's 5 years older, and my mom only told us that our only job was to do well in school and to graduate with great grades and to get into college. And so that's what my sister and I did. My mom worked a construction job. She worked in construction for 7 years just to put my sister and I through school so that we would never have to worry about it. My sister just graduated with her master's, and thankfully she's a great role model. So now I'm here. A little bit about what I did at Williams. I was a first-generation student. I worked with the first-generation orientation team since my freshman year. So this has been part of the program that I've planned for the last 3 years, and I'm glad to see it from the other side after having graduated. I was also a junior advisor, as Kevin and Eddie have mentioned. Really do encourage your kids that if they have any issues with college, that they can reach out to their JAs. They're people that are there because they want to help your students, and they want to do this mentoring role. I also did track and field when I was in college, so I know a little bit about time management while at college, and I truly enjoyed it, being part of a sport and being part of different organizations while I was on campus. I know it made my time here a lot better because I got to meet so many people. And I mean, I've loved Williams since I stepped foot on campus, which is why I wanted to work here as well. But yeah, I'll be answering more questions later, but I'll let Sarah introduce herself.
Hi, I'm... sorry. That's okay. Actually, no, this works. Okay. Hi, I'm Sarah Hetherington. I'm a junior currently and co-directing the First Gen Orientation program, so that's why I'm not actually leading a group of freshmen. I'm just kind of in the background hovering a little bit. And since my time at Williams, I started as a very nervous freshman, but kind of as soon as I hopped out of the shuttle van, there were people like there greeting me and helping me with my stuff, and I think that this orientation is kind of what made me feel like everything's going to be okay. But yeah, I think it's going into my junior year, and I feel like I'm finally very comfortable here. On campus, I do work with the orientation kind of throughout the year, and also kind of work with Williams Record and also Parlor Tricks, so those are very writing-oriented things. Yeah, and I think my parents have visited once or twice. I'm all the way from Florida, so it's really hard for them to come up. One time they actually drove all the way while I was working here over the summer just to come see it, and then they were like, oh, that was fun, and then they kind of went to New York City without me, and I was like, okay. But yeah, I think that whenever they visit, they see that I'm like really happy here, and I'm always trying to show them like I'm fine, even though they might be far away. Yeah, and so I'm just looking forward to also sharing that with you guys.
All right, so I'm going to start off with the series of questions, and feel free to jump in whatever order you please. So what was the hardest part of adjusting to college?
I'll take it. I think one thing for me, maybe several, but one big adjustment for me was actually having my own room. And this was a great adjustment for me. I had always shared a room with my brother. I'm from a larger family. I have 5 siblings. And so there were 7 of us total growing up. And so I was always used to someone in my space, for better or for worse. But with that, when I went away, I think certainly that immediate family connection was just a little bit different. And so I said for better or for worse, because sometimes, as you probably know, siblings can get in each other's businesses, but then they're also there for you when you need them. And so it was just a different kind of environment where I was needing to get used to different resources that were available immediately around me. And so in my first year, when I had a single for the first time, when I had my own room for the first time, and I didn't have my brother there, for example, or my either parent who was, in the room over. It was refocusing my mindset to realize that I was now in a new space, and I had to make a transition, and being active and proactive about that, and seeking out the resources that were immediately available to me. Certainly my parents were always still available, and I know you all here will probably, will certainly be available for your children in their first year and throughout college. But it was just a little bit of a different transition in terms of the immediacy of having someone physically present. And so for me, it was more refocusing my own mindset in thinking, what else is available? What kind of support services are available here? We talked again about the JA system, the junior advisors. They're great resources for students. We talked about, and sort of the whole day is to help you understand the resources available for your children here. And I really encourage for you to encourage them to utilize them. And so I think that's something that I wasn't quite aware of coming into Williams. Back when I was a freshman, we actually didn't have I don't think at least, we had parents come for first gen orientation. So I I mentioned earlier, I just came by myself on a plane. And so I'm really glad that you guys are all here. But then with that, I think it's really important for you to empower your students in being proactive when they come here and sort of seeking out the resources. Because again, that's not something I was really thinking about. It wasn't my automatic default setting until I realized I had to make a shift because of this new space that I was living in.
Definitely one of my first, I had to adjust to time management. Like, I really had no idea how to use my time. One, my mom would always wake me up at 6:30 in the morning, and if I didn't wake up, she'd get ice and put it on me, so I would wake up at 6:30 in the morning. It's different when you have to wake yourself up, and you can snooze the alarm and it won't put ice on you. That was hard. Kind of figuring out when to prioritize. I wrestled my first year. When to prioritize classes, what to do first. how to use my time efficiently. That was definitely difficult. I am still learning. And also figuring out how to cope with stress. It's definitely hard, and I think it's, I'm doing fairly well right now, so that's really good. And just opening up to people, kind of like being a part of this community, which was hard at first because, once again, I'm from Miami, and we actually have traffic signals and traffic lights. Here there's one. And the nearest Walmart, for example, is 30 minutes away driving. So just being kind of open to this community, this beautiful Williams campus, and actually accepting it was hard for me. But I've learned to do it, so it took a couple years, but it's good now.
I think for me, similar to Kevin, my mom used to wake me up at 7 in the morning. So we made it so that she actually, when she was still working in construction, since she worked so early, because of the 2-hour difference, I'm from New Mexico. The 2-hour difference, she would actually call me at like 6 her time to wake me up here at 8. And at first, because at home I would always be like, 5 more minutes. Like I just raised my hand and be like 5 more minutes. So this time I had to answer the phone and say, please call me back in 5 minutes. And she went with it. We loved it. It was actually a really good time for us to keep communicating. And then after that, since her jobs changed, we kind of stopped doing that. And also because I had to wake up at different times. So had to get adjusted to that without my mom calling me. Something else too, because of time management and how much I was doing in college, I sometimes forgot to make time to call my mom and my sister, which was definitely difficult because my mom didn't want to bother me, or she thought that she was bothering me by calling me, but I would have loved for her to call me a little bit more, and I would tell her, sometimes I forget. I'm doing so much that I forget to call you. Please call me. And so she would do it sometimes, or like she wouldn't tell me everything that was going on at home. I had to rely on my sister, who is the one that tells me everything. But having that adjustment of having to actually make time in my day to call my family was big for me. And something that was also extremely humbling was coming here, and in my community, I was always the one who was doing the most in school. And so coming to a place like this where everyone else is also the best in their community, doing the best, it's a very humbling experience. And in the entry system, which you're going to be living with 25 other students, you're going to hear from their backgrounds as well. And sometimes they came from wealthier backgrounds, and I saw a lot of white people, which I was definitely not used to. My community, it's mainly Mexican-American students. And so coming here, it was also really different to see black people, see white people, see Asian people, someone who was not Latino. And to me, that was very different. And a lot of times, since they came from communities with more resources, their experiences were very different from my own. So that was a really big adjustment. But something that I told myself, and I know this is not the case for a lot of people, I told myself that I had to stop comparing myself to others because their situations were definitely different than mine. They either went to better public schools, worse public schools, private schools, whatever it is. I couldn't compare myself to them, or otherwise I would just end up with a really poor mindset. And so I think that really helped me refocus second semester and just tell myself to compare me to myself, and that I should just do the best of my abilities. And if I don't get that A, that's okay, I tried my hardest. So that's like something that students don't typically do. So if your kid is struggling, I would highly encourage you to say, they were chosen to come here for a reason, and they are meant to be here. It was not a mistake that the admissions team picked them. They are supposed to be here. It's just that it's harder. The transition is harder. They just have to find their own rhythm. So really tell them, you are meant to be there. Just calm down. You can vent to me if you can. But yeah, so be there for your students.
I I think actually, in contrast to Eddie, my biggest difficulty was there were so many people around all the time. I was in a double that was like very narrow, and so my roommate and I could like hold hands before we went to sleep, and it was just like, this is too close. I've never been this close to another person. Because at home, it was like I would get home from school every day, my parents would still be at work, and like I'd be home alone or my sister would be home, and then we would all, when everyone was finally together, we'd all sit down and have dinner, and then we'd go back and do like our things, and like dinner was the like one chunk of time where we were like all together and we all got to talk to each other, and that was like, this is set out as like this meaningful kind of time we have for each other. But here it's kind of like you always see everyone, so it's like I'm just gonna sit here for a really long time and talk to everyone, and then the time gets away from you. So this also has to do with time management, I guess. But definitely like you don't have the same structure and you don't have the same kind of like relationships because they're a lot more like tangible and they're there all the time, and so you're like, I can always like do homework later and everyone's here. So yeah, I think that like getting used to the fact that I need to like be selfish with some of my time, and it's really great to make friends the first 2 weeks of Williams, but when classes start, you have to like reel back just a little bit so that you can do it, because studying together doesn't always work for me. Yeah, that was really difficult. I think also it's not so much the like time difference from Florida or anything like that, but it's just everyone's on a different schedule now. And so there might be a day where I'm not texting my parents or something, and that just, it feels really weird. I'm always texting them, and even if they don't answer. So I think I might be the needier one. But yeah, just a few adjustments to make. It's like more written than vocal communication, which is hard.
Thank you. My next question is, how are you or how were you involved in campus, and why is that campus involvement important to you?
I can start. Oh, no. Okay, sorry. I can actually start because I never played sports or anything in high school. My parents actually didn't let me. They said that I needed to focus on school and just stay home and study for all the AP exams that they made me take. So when I got here, I was like, oh, I don't know how to play sports. I don't know how to do anything, but I really did like to write. And so there's a small group that's started by students called Parlor Tricks, where people submit artwork and writing. And I really liked that community because it didn't feel so structured as like an academic class, and it was more fun. We like talked about each other's writing and artwork, and you could edit things, and it just didn't feel like work until we had to put together like a magazine and edit everyone's work and submit it. But it's just like very cool to see how student-run things can also be very meaningful to a bunch of different people on campus, and you meet people you wouldn't have met otherwise who are also very goofy and also really like writing and different stuff. So I think that was a really meaningful experience for me.
Well, my first year I was in wrestling, and it was nice, but I got a concussion, and I am no longer wrestling. It was also difficult to tell my mom that I got a concussion, because she, first of all, didn't like me wrestling. And then telling her that I probably have to take a semester off because I was wrestling and I got a concussion wasn't the best for her. But after that, I kind of found like a different community. So I was involved, and I will still be involved, in First Gen. So last year and the year before that, I was on the First Generation board. And there we plan all different kind of events and make sure that people who identify as First Gen feel like they have a community or a family on campus, are not ashamed that they are the first in their family to go to college, because I think it's an amazing success. I've also been involved, or I was a JA last year, and that was amazing. It was difficult at times, but the reason why I did it is because there weren't that many people who were JAs who kind of come from a low-income background, or who were first-generation students, or who were, first off, from Miami, or who had parents who were immigrants. And being there for those students who do identify kind of like me was important for me. I had people from other entries kind of go up to me and talk to me about their family, talk Spanish to me, because after a while you kind of just want to speak Spanish every now and then. And when you find that one person who speaks Spanish, you just want to keep doing it. Even though my Spanish is quite bad, I am still practicing it. And I think if I stopped learning Spanish, my parents would not be happy. That's what I was involved in. I was also involved in the selection committee, and we selected this year's JAs. So trust me, they are amazing. And if you have any questions at all, please ask them. Trust me, I actually like answering questions. That's why they're there. That's, I think, what I've been involved in. Yeah.
Well, I started getting involved my freshman year. I didn't know I wanted to play a sport because before Williams, I was just like, I'm going to focus on academics. Even though I had played sports my whole life, I was like, I'm going to focus just on academics, and that's going to be great. But once I got here, that was really different because I actually didn't know how to just be a student. I needed something else to do to kind of help me with my time management. And also, if I don't have an organized sport, I'm really pretty bad at working out by myself. So I needed that organized setting. And actually being on the track team is pretty huge. So there were a lot of people from very different backgrounds, and we basically meet daily for 2 hours. And those are probably people I wouldn't have otherwise met if I hadn't been on the track team, even though they're a large group. And so I really enjoyed going out to track meets with them and practicing with them every day. And then after that, a lot of them tended to hang out with themselves, but I actually had my other group of friends that I could definitely go to that weren't involved in sports. I was very involved with the Latinx organization on campus called Vista. And there I basically met some of my best friends. And it's true that Kevin mentioned, once you find someone whom you can relate to, that speaks Spanish, that comes from your same background, you kind of tend to stick with them. And so up to this point, we did amazing things for all 4 years. So I'm really thankful to have met them, because they definitely kept me sane as well throughout my 4 years here. I was very involved with the first generation initiatives on campus. So I worked very closely with Dean Reyes. Does she introduce herself as Reyes? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Dean Reyes. And she is amazing. Honestly, she's there and she really wants to be helping people. Sorry, I got confused with the name. She just got married, so I don't know what to call her now. But yeah, Farrow, Dean Farrow. And so she has been amazing. She has been an amazing mentor to me. I was basically her personal assistant for 2 years. So I saw her more than a few times weekly. So she, I don't know, I really enjoyed having her in my life as well, because you always need to have someone that you can really relate to and talk to in a mentorship position, and she was that person for me. I was a junior advisor, and I also very much enjoyed doing that. It was an extremely rewarding position because I did get to help mentor students throughout their first year. And similar to Kevin, I wanted to be involved in that role because I myself am low income, first generation, Mexican, and there's not a lot of representation from JAs from those types of backgrounds. And freshmen who don't see someone whom they can relate to, it's a little harder for them. So I wanted to be also that person that students can go to. I also helped select the JAs for this year with Kevin, so that was, they are amazing people. So I encourage you to meet them. They are on campus. I think that's it. So, and I truly enjoy being involved in all of those because I did get to meet people from very different backgrounds. I know of friends who may not have been as involved in many clubs. Maybe they just kept to themselves or try to just do academics. And that kind of backfires for people because if they just keep to themselves, that's not what this school is about. This school is about building community. And it's an extremely collaborative environment where students just want to help each other out and work with each other. So if you just try to keep to yourself, it's really not going to get you anywhere good. So encourage your students to get involved in different organizations that they might be interested in. So like Sarah mentioned, she got involved in writing, and so I'm sure that allowed her to meet people, different people that she could talk to just by passing and walking by Pereski. So really encourage your students to get involved.
And to that, I would add, it's actually really easy to get involved in things here at Williams. There's a large student organizations fair that happens at the beginning of every year called the Purple Key Fair, where everyone, all these different student organizations will be in the field house. They have a table, and then all the first-year students flood in and essentially sign up for way more than they can do, realize that they need to learn time management. You can't be involved in 16 different activities. But I mention that to say it's actually really refreshing to be in a space and in an environment where it's super easy to get plugged into any kind of community. Most of them are actually free, so there shouldn't be, in most cases, any additional cost. That was new to me. I played competitive volleyball in high school, and I would work at my club volleyball team on other weekends when we didn't have tournaments, sort of working at other being able to earn additional money to help offset the cost of my fees. And so coming to a place here where excuse me, where all of those were pretty much taken care of was remarkable for me. And so I wanted to jump into everything and do as much as I could to take advantage of that. I was also a junior advisor at Williams, so you're getting a biased perspective here about junior advisors, but they really are great. And so that was, for the same reason mentioned, I think a lot of students sort of this identity of first generation is not often, it's not visible in many ways unless you're wearing a t-shirt, for example. But it's really, it was really just an opportunity to work with students that perhaps don't come from many resources in here at Williams, in the case where it might be true for other students here. One thing that I'll mention really quickly that was really important to me that I was actively involved in, so not only campus jobs, but that's not the important thing. That was really great, just being able to work here on campus a little bit, have a reasonable work expectation. We don't allow students to work, I think it's over 10 hours a week is the cap, and so we want students to be involved in other activities other than working. But one meaningful way I was able to connect was actually in my faith community as part of the Williams Christian Fellowship here. And that was really important to me because when I was leaving home, and I think faith is important to a lot of folks in whichever faith tradition you might come from, I had people from my church quite honestly say, like, we will pray for you. And I was like, oh, don't worry, I'll be okay. But now I was so grateful for that. So grateful for the sort of the community that I was coming from and sort of leaving to come to Williams to have that support. And then from there to be able to transition into having that kind of support here at Williams and being able to find other students here on campus, other faculty and staff members who shared what was most important to me as well. So I will say that there is a place for that as well here at Williams. It's not something that students should feel the need to hide or not talk about. There are many spaces and communities specifically devoted to practicing your faith and connecting with other students.
Thank you. And then really, really quickly, and then we're going to open it up to questions from parents and families. What do you wish your family had known? Really quickly.
That I did not know everything as soon as I came into college. Because they thought I had already planned out my major, that after this I would automatically go to law school and then be making loads of money. That's not the case. It's okay to not know what you're going to major in, and it's also okay to switch majors. I think my parents now understand that it's okay to take time off, so I took a semester off, and it's helped me a whole lot. So I just wish that and they do now, they definitely understand that just because I'm not majoring in English and I'm majoring in history, is okay, you know? Just coming in and being happy here and with my major and kind of exploring different options, different courses is definitely reasonable to do here and should be done.
I will just add one thing really quickly to Kevin's point. I think it's really important to think about allowing students to explore in their interests. So coming from Romania, even at the high school level, you have students that go for a particular track or a career field. I'm not sure if that's true in your communities. Particularly, I think it's true more abroad. So if anyone here was born in a different country and immigrated to America, I think typically in other countries, students will be more regimented in the path that they follow. And so when, I think the natural question is, what are you going to college for? And by that, what are you going for means like what career do you have in line after? And coming to a liberal arts place, that's not always as clear cut. Certainly, students will figure it out. They'll find a way. They'll be able to navigate through this space with different jobs and internships. They'll have, and as you've heard already, if you haven't yet, you will later in the day. There are a lot of resources available to help students navigate that path in terms of what their career options might be after Williams. And so it's not always super clear cut, and my parents didn't really get that because in where we were coming from at the high school level, and even certainly at the college level, you would go in a particular area and you would know for sure. And I would also add, I just wanted to take the time right now to elaborate on something else Alejandro was mentioning, because I think it's really important and I want to say it before we get to questions, is that I really want to emphasize the fact that your children are really meant to be here. Honestly, we would not have admitted them. Have them, if they're ever feeling that way, come find me in my office in Weston Hall and I will talk to them, direct them to me, and we will have a conversation on why they're here. Oftentimes, it took me a while to get comfortable here at Williams. And so I really mean that if you can really encourage your students not to compare to other students here. It's a losing battle because you're going to pick the worst in yourself and compare to the best in somebody else. And so I wanted to mention that all the students that are part of the class of 2021 are exceptional. We're really thrilled to have them here.
I think similarly, I wish that my parents had maybe a different understanding of the liberal arts. It's also really frustrating for my parents that there's not a clear-cut path, and sometimes they maybe don't see like why I'm doing certain things or why my mind changes a lot from semester to semester about what I'm going to do like within the next 10 years, but it just doesn't seem that unreasonable because it's such a long time from now. But I think that they also like don't understand sometimes why I might have to not be at home for a break or like why I'm going to do internships. And it seems like sometimes I'll present them with something that seems like an opportunity to me and it's like, oh, you're going away, that sucks, and they're not really happy about it. But definitely like explaining to them that you'd like to be home but you wish you could do both or something, like that's been the balancing act for me kind of. Definitely like presenting things like, this is a good thing, I'm going to learn a lot from it, is helpful.
Yeah, I definitely really want to emphasize what Sarah just mentioned, that it's really difficult for parents to realize at some points that as students, we're probably not going to be home definitely as much as you expected us to. Students do have winter studies, so a class that they take in the month of January, so they're only going to be home for 2 weeks in December, and then they're gonna be off doing something either here or maybe an internship somewhere else. In the summer, they're probably gonna try to find a job or an internship somewhere else, so they might not be at home as much as they used to. They might choose to be leaders for a specific orientation, whether it be first gen or other orientations. They're gonna have to be here training a week after everyone leaves campus, and they're gonna have to come back a week before everyone else gets here on campus. I know that. Well, my mom was very understanding. For some reason, my older sister wasn't. My sister acted more of my mom as my mom did. And they just couldn't understand why I had to be at school for so much. And it's just, I have loved everything that I've done here at Williams. And being at Williams just makes me really happy. And of course, I love my family, but I'm trying to figure out who I am while being here. So that's also really important for me. But also, I wish my mom specifically, because she was a little more hands-off, like she definitely understood that I was gonna be busy, but I think she thought I was gonna be too busy that she just doesn't call me And like I said, I may forget to call her sometimes, so I just wish she would have just made a little more effort. And right now we do talk a lot more. We FaceTime every day, so that's good. But definitely we need effort from both parties as well. So I'm gonna try to call her, but she also needs to learn to call me, so it has to be a mutual agreement there.
Actually, can I add on to that? Just because you mentioned your parents being hands off, I wish they knew. I also was like worried about them as much as they're worried about me. Like they can take care of themselves, but I'm like, what's going on? I want to know everything that's happening at home. And it's just like we are doing the same thing that we have every day for the past like forever. But yeah, definitely they do miss you as much as you miss them. And just because they're really busy, sometimes they can't always show it.
All right, so questions from anyone in the audience here? Yes, up in the front, please.
Everything is fun.
No, I mean, I understand it. So you guys study Monday through Friday. Comes Friday night, comes Saturday night.
Well, I think for me, honestly, maybe my fun is not the same definition as a lot of college students. I mean, obviously we do have parties here, so students do party on the weekends, so that's something that students choose to do. For me, sleeping was definitely my fun, and yeah, I love sleeping in. That's like my one thing I love, helps keep me sane, so I sleep as much as I can. But definitely sleeping or just relaxing at night, honestly watching Netflix. Kevin here, I'm dating Kevin, and we're very similar, and so like at night we just want to watch Netflix, and we don't want to be like other college students that go out and party, but that's kind of us. That's not the same for every student. So definitely sleeping was like my thing, or just doing homework at a lighter pace, not having to worry about like finishing an essay super quickly, just like working slowly on it. It's like fun, and studying with friends is actually, to me, that was really fun because I'm a very extroverted person. So actually being with friends and just hanging out and talking to them was the most fun for me.
Well, last year I would play basketball with my freshmen. They're really good, and I'm also really short, so they beat me a lot. But that was fun. Go to the gym with a couple of my friends. We would hang out. As Alejandra said, I don't really go to too many parties, but just hanging out with friends, really like doing anything with just relaxing was really fun. There are a couple of dances that like Vista and BSU host, which is nice to go, like they're nice to go to. Oh gosh, sleeping in is amazing too. Sorry, that was like getting like 12 hours of sleep. That's like unheard of. That's like seriously, when you tell one of your friends you got 12 hours of sleep, they're jealous. But that's pretty much it. I mean, just hang out with friends is what I like doing a lot.
Actually, in addition to like Vista and BSU parties, there's also all-campus entertainment. Like if you don't like parties, I think ACE will put on like different activities every week or so, and they're actually, some of them can be really fun. They put laser tag up in the gym once and brought like all of the obstacle things, and I was like, oh, that's like what little kids do, but my friends dragged me there and it was really fun. It was a blast. So you might get like the chance just to do something weird, and it ends up being like a really fun time.
Can I add something to it?
Yeah.
And eat, that's fun too.
No, I was gonna say that it seems we are a very smart college, a very small college in the middle of nowhere. So as Sarah mentioned, the all-campus entertainment group and other groups on campus do bring different activities to campus, different performances, different speakers. And so it honestly doesn't feel isolating at all, because it does make the community a lot stronger. And there are a lot of events that students can go to if they're not doing homework.
And about those events, what's really helpful is that they're either free or they're $3. So that's a policy that we have here at Williams, where everything is entirely subsidized by Williams, or like 99.9% subsidized, and there's just a small entrance fee for it. And so, like for example, the New York City Ballet came one time, I think it was during winter study, and I actually checked online their tickets. I think they perform at the Lincoln Center in New York City, is their home stage, and the ticket was like $130. Here for students, it was $3. And so again, that's true across the board. We have an events calendar. It's events.williams.edu. There's a lot happening, in fact, that students might not be aware of until they get to this community and see what's happening. You can see it for yourselves if you want to check out last year. There probably aren't as many right now because the school year hasn't started. But you can see last year how much things were happening over the course of any given week.
Other questions? Yes, in the second row.
I have two sons, and they always share a room as well, and bunk beds forever. This will be my son's first, his own space, and one of my worries is that he will just sort of hole up in his room and, maybe get isolated in that way because, he likes having his own space. Is there any system in where you can pull a freshman out of their, just get them involved in a social scene, or do they really need to be self-motivated and make that happen?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. I think there are so many different ways for students to get involved. I think especially in the entry system. So early on, literally all of the first year students living in an entry will go to breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. And so you have an opportunity at the very beginning to just have that community immediately in place. And then, so for me, when I was a first year student, I became close with the people in my hallway. So I was in Mission Park. There's Mission Park and Frosh Quad are the two first-year residences. And Mission Park is organized by hallways. There are 4 hallways in Mission in each particular entry. And so we would actually, in my entry freshman year, we would check if our hallmates were all there. And then say, oh, Jeremy's not here. Let me go check and knock on his door and see if he wants to come down for dinner with us today. And if he didn't, that's totally fine. If he was like, no, I'm having dinner with another friend tonight, that's perfectly fine. Or I have an organizational meeting. And so I think it is a little bit more within the entry that is checking up on each other, or if students are involved in, they might designate an interest in an extracurricular activity, and they are then able to find the pocket of community there. And then those friends are able to sort of encourage the student to go to an event, a sporting event, for example, on campus or whatever it might be. Yeah.
Yeah, so within the entry system, the JAs also, they know that, at least for a lot of people, it may be the first time leaving home, or I don't know, they just need a little bit more pushing to get out of the room. So at least during the first weeks of school, like the JAs will try really hard to get everyone involved, so that they can get to know each other and that they know that they're a support system for one another. And so the kids who maybe tend to be more reserved will get more pushed towards the beginning. And then after that, it is a little more self-motivated, and hopefully they do make the efforts to either hang out with the people in the entry or find their friends outside of the entry that let them get out of their room.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
In addition, every time you kind of go to your room, you will be passing through like the common room. So it's kind of hard to just completely avoid people. Like there will always be someone just like say hi. That's what the entry system is about. So it's really good.
Other questions? Yes, Kevin.
Are you guys nervous? Right. Just remember that they're always here. If you have any concerns, seriously, I mean, your kids will be nervous at first, maybe even shy, but after a while they're gonna love it. And call them every now and then, because sometimes they will forget. Trust me, when you have like 10-page essays due every week or so, they will forget. But they love you so much. So thank you guys for letting them come here.
I think you all will be sticking around for a few more minutes after.